guys! Today, we'll be recapping a story called I Became the Youngest Sister-in-Law of the Ruined Reverse Harem's Male Leads. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! A brightly lit sailing ship glides through a dark, star-dusted sea. On board, a cheerful party is taking place. Liliana and her three older sisters meet the heroine, Rebecca. The scene triggers Liliana's fevered memories from a month ago, flooding back like a lightning strike. In the original story, Rebecca leaves her hometown, Trovancha, to seek revenge and settle in the Empire. There, she entangles with three powerful male leads, Francois, Leopold, and Marius. Each man falls in love with her and fights to win her heart. But Rebecca manipulates them to start a war, turning Trovancha into a sea of flames. Liliana's family is caught in the chaos, and her eldest sister, Alice, dies. The city is destroyed, and Liliana is taken to the Empire as a prisoner. Liliana hopes to change the story, though she's unsure if she was reborn or just placed in this body. But being just an ordinary 6-year-old, most of her past life remains still unclear to her. At the party, Liliana hides behind Alice as Rebecca offers her chocolates. Like any child, she's easily swayed as Rebecca pats her head. She then asks Liliana what her dream is, to which she replies that she only wants to live happily with her sisters. Rebecca wishes Liliana happiness, but the words leave a strange feeling in Liliana's heart. It's as if she knows something as well. That night, someone fell over the ship's railing. No body is found, and it's said that Rebecca is dead. Everyone is shocked, but probably not as much as Liliana. If Rebecca is really dead, then will the original plot change? Currently, she enjoys a peaceful meal with her sisters. Amelia is the sister who, in the original story, bravely sneaks into the Imperial Palace to save Liliana. Regina is the gentle one and makes the most delicious meals, while Alice, the eldest and Liliana's favorite, is kind, beautiful, and everything she admires. Their brother Andrea left for the countryside without warning, and no one lives with them. With Rebecca, the original heroine, now dead, the story seems to have ended before it could begin. If Rebecca is gone, maybe only the male leads remain a threat when she turns 12. After dinner, Amelia takes Liliana somewhere. There they meet Francois Cassel, the current master of the magic tower. Liliana is shocked. She's encountered one of the male leads so early. This smells like trouble. Seeing Francois, Liliana immediately wants to get her sister out of the place. Why? Because all the male leads in the original story had their own share of madness. Marius, the emperor, was obsessively devoted and willing to do anything for the heroine. Leopold, the knight commander, was fiercely loyal, offering everything he had. But unlike their romantic madness, the tower master Francois was truly insane. A ticking time bomb with unpredictable behavior. Just being near him fills Liliana with dread. Amelia introduces Liliana to Francois, unaware of his true nature. She hopes that with his knowledge of magic, he can heal Liliana, who gets sick often. Apparently, Amelia had heard of Francois' research related to the structure of holy magic if aligned with mana in a potion. It said that the healing effect becomes 5 times stronger. Liliana urges her sister to leave, but Amelia simply orders orange juice. In desperation, she deliberately spills juice on Amelia's clothes, forcing them to depart for a change. As they leave, Francois observes Liliana with a smile on his face, which only deepens her unease. Back at home, Liliana insists she doesn't like Francois, no matter how handsome he is. Amelia, however, argues that they must keep seeing him to improve her health. Poor Liliana, she just wants her sisters to live. The following day, Liliana visits the playground with Regina. It's her first time there in a long while. After the news of Rebecca's death, Liliana was so ill that she quit kindergarten and remained home. Now, she finally gets to play again in the place she missed so much. Meanwhile, Regina knits nearby and watches over her with a smile. Seeing Liliana so lively makes Regina happy as well. As Liliana swings back and forth, someone suddenly pushes the swing, lifting her higher. At first, Liliana enjoys the wind and height, but as the swing rises, she accidentally loses her grip on the swing and falls. Oh no! Regina panics, screaming and running to her aid. Falling, Liliana thought she would surely die hitting the ground so young. But before Liliana is about to hit the ground, a strong knight catches her just in time. Regina rushes to her, followed closely by the man who pushed the swing. Liliana hugs her sister tightly, but when she looks up, she sees the other 2 male leads, Marius and Leopold. To her shock, Marius is the one who pushed her swing, and Leopold is the one who caught her. Meeting both of them so suddenly leaves Liliana stunned and even more troubled. These were the men whose madness helped destroy her homeland in the original story. Without missing a beat, Regina scolds Marius harshly for pushing Liliana too high. Liliana, used to seeing her gentle sister calm and cheerful, is surprised to see her angry and serious. But what worries her more is Marius' dangerous nature, despite his friendly appearance. Surprisingly, Marius bows his head repeatedly like an apologetic puppy, apologizing to both Regina and Liliana. Liliana trembles, not from the fall, but because someone like Marius, known for being ruthless, is apologizing so easily. It feels far too unnatural. It surely is unsettling. Trying to calm the mood, Liliana tells her sister that she's fine. Regina then thanks Leopold for saving her little sister. Likewise, Liliana also bows and thanks him politely, not wanting to make the situation worse. In the original novel, Leopold is a swordmaster known for pushing himself beyond his limits. He later becomes the imperial commander who leads the empire to victory in the war against Trovancha. Seeing him now, in a different demeanor, feels unreal to Liliana. Just then, Marius becomes smitten by Liliana's manners, calling her precious and adorable. Out of nowhere, he then suggests a way for Regina to repay Leopold's heroic act earlier, by touring them around Trovancha. What a random request! Liliana is more troubled by the minute. Getting involved with the male leads only brings trouble in the original story. Heck, just being near them already stresses Liliana enough. But now that they've met her sisters, avoiding them might be impossible. She then decides on a new goal. Instead of escaping the male leads, maybe she can make them care about her family too. If they became friends with her sisters, perhaps she can prevent the tragedy from ever happening. Determined, she encourages Regina to become their guide. Without delay, Liliana decides to set her plan in motion, befriending the male leads and showing them around Trovancha. In her defense, at least they aren't Francois, whose madness is like a ticking time bomb. As they dine peacefully in a restaurant, Marius playfully teases Liliana for being short, his cheerful tone making the atmosphere light. He even asks her to guess his age, flashing a dazzling smile that leaves her stammering. All the male leads are ridiculously handsome. They are male leads for a reason, after all. Liliana, unbothered by his status as emperor, jokes right back and guesses he's 550 years old. Marius laughs, bragging about his charm and grinning with confidence. But Liliana casually says Leopold is more handsome, making Leopold blush and choke on his drink. Laughter breaks out as Marius acts betrayed, and the table bursts into playful chaos. But just as Liliana picks up her spoon to eat, the restaurant door opens, and Francois walks in. Her mood plummets as if all her energy was lost. She pales, feeling cursed to attract all the male leads in one place. She's a magnet! Francois greets Liliana with a smile that only deepens her fear. Of all the male leads, he's the one she truly dreads. In the original novel, he didn't just imprison the heroine in the tower, he also forced Liliana to serve as her maid. Even worse, when the heroine refused to eat, Francois made Liliana drink poison, giving her the antidote only if the heroine ate properly. The catch? The antidote would only work if taken within half a day from ingesting the poison. The memory sends chills down her spine. Sitting with them now, Francois calmly tells Regina that Amelia has made a contract with him for Liliana's health. Liliana freezes, losing her appetite completely. Regina can't believe Amelia would do such a thing, especially concerning Liliana's health. Regina will surely scold Amelia for making that decision without informing them. Amelia, you are done for. Guilt consumes Liliana. She knows Amelia only did it for her. She doesn't want her sister to get in trouble because of her. But more than anything, she fears being caught in Francois' twisted world again. After his meal, Francois excuses himself to take care of some business. Afterward, the rest of the group head to a nearby beach, where they play until Liliana eventually falls asleep. Leopold gently carries her on his back, giving her a peaceful ride home. When they arrive, Leopold blushes slightly as he shyly asks Regina if she could guide them around again next time. Marius, ever the tease, makes a joke about the pair, earning a sharp step on the foot from Liliana. Liliana and Marius often bicker like children, while Regina and Leopold quietly share sweet romantic moments. However, Liliana suddenly bursts into tears as the bickering intensifies, interrupting the tender scene. Marius pouts as Regina tries to calm Liliana down while leading her into the house. Left alone outside, Leopold sighs and scolds Marius for making Liliana cry. Marius only laughs, teasing that it's rare to see Leopold flustered and trembling after a chance meeting with Regina. Surely he fell for Regina at first sight. It turns out, earlier that week, when a summit trip to Trovancha was confirmed, Marius and Leopold arrived ahead of schedule to handle personal matters. Though officials were uneasy about their lack of guards, neither needed protection. Leopold, the swordmaster, hailed as a human weapon, and Marius, who sees the throne through blood, were more than capable. Still, all their strength couldn't help them navigate the unfamiliar streets. They ended up hopelessly lost in Trovancha. As they wandered, they came across a small playground and noticed a girl swinging by herself. The moment Marius saw Liliana, he was struck by how much she resembled Andrea. It brought back a memory of his promise to protect the siblings Andrea cherished as a quiet form of atonement Marius could never speak aloud. What could have Marius done to atone for it? In the evening, as expected, Regina scolds Amelia for deciding on her own about the matter of Liliana's health. As the two argue throughout the night, Liliana hides under her blanket, blaming herself for not being healthier. She wishes Alice would come and stop the fight. The next morning, Amelia wakes Liliana early, telling her they're going out. While Liliana eats breakfast, Amelia casually mentions they're visiting Francois again. Instantly, Liliana pretends her stomach hurts, desperate to avoid seeing him. Acting at its finest. But no matter how hard she tries to act sick, it doesn't work. They'll still visit Francois. During the meal, Liliana has to drink a bubbling grape-colored drink that looks strange. She glances helplessly at Amelia, silently pleading for rescue. Amelia, a respected scholar in Trovancha known for her research on magic and holy power, often deals with potions. But this one is made by Francois. Liliana refuses to drink it, fearing him more than any illness. But Amelia insists, gently forcing her to drink, making Liliana feel like throwing up. Teary-eyed, she grows upset at Amelia for making her drink something awful. Trying to cheer her up, Francois offers her a sweet cake, and although she's stunned by his good looks, Liliana keeps her cold attitude toward him. Unexpectedly, Francois flicks his hand and a tiny squirrel materializes. This amazes Liliana. Seeing how they're on good terms now, Francois praises her for drinking the juice, even spoon-feeding her. To her surprise, she manages to forgive them. After the meal, Francois tells Amelia that the drink might have side effects. That in mind, Amelia then suggests he check on Liliana once a week for follow-up visits. Amelia just wants what's best for her. Francois turns to look at Liliana, and she feels a chill down her spine. His gaze is soft, almost affectionate, as he says he only wants her to grow up healthy. But something about that look makes Liliana uneasy. Finally, they arrive back home. Liliana, though, still wonders why Francois looked so serious when he wished her good health. His words were nice, but his eyes seemed to hold something heavy. Liliana then sneaks into Regina's room, only to find her picking out clothes for a date with Leopold. Regina, unlike her other sisters, has always been dreamy and open about love. Many men have tried to impress her, but none caught her attention. Until Leopold. Liliana is stunned to learn that her sister's date is with one of the male leads. In the original novel, Leopold and Alice were commanders of opposing armies, and Leopold was the one who took Alice's life. Despite her shock, Liliana feels hopeful. If Regina and Leopold become a couple, perhaps that tragedy will never occur. She even imagines them as a perfect match, excited by the prospect of a brighter future. That's a perfect plan. That evening, Liliana's fever worsened despite drinking medicine, forcing Regina to rush her to the clinic. All the while, Liliana feels guilty for ruining Regina's supposed date. Leopold, on the other hand, is under the impression that Regina stood him up. He wonders if Regina was really interested in him or if he just misunderstood. He waited for 3 hours, but in the end, she didn't show up. Trying to lighten the mood, Marius tries to comfort him, teasing that he's already fallen too hard, too fast. To feel more secure, both Leopold and Marius move to a hotel. But as they wait for their tour guide, a knock sounds. They open it to find a tall, commanding woman who introduces herself as Alice, a senior superintendent of the Trovancha Marine Police Department's Security Bureau. It turns out, Alice will be responsible for Marius and Leopold's security while they stay in Trovancha. Curious, he asks if she's related to Regina, causing Leopold to freeze. He quickly explains they met Regina the other day when she gave them a tour. In the carriage, Marius glances at Alice. The Bercio family, a powerful Trovancha political force, has a proud, generations-long legacy of producing politicians and frontline warriors. To send Alice, a direct descendant capable of guarding Marius alone, shows Trovancha's sincerity and diplomacy. Breaking the silence, Marius asks about Liliana. Alice then reveals that Liliana has been sick and hospitalized for days, leaving her in Regina and Amelia's care. Hearing this, Leopold feels relieved, realizing Regina's absence was due to an emergency, not abandonment. Changing the topic, Marius casually suggests an arranged marriage with someone from Trovancha. It's all for political reasons, of course. He then directly asks Alice how she would feel about being the ideal political match for him. However, Alice is unfazed. Smiling, she asks what he offers in return, showing her unswayable nature. She's a baddie. Regina blames Amelia for Liliana's declining health. So far, she and Francois have caused Liliana nothing but pain. Her accusations affect Amelia deeply, and possibly driven by guilt, she weeps next to Liliana's bedside. Seeing this, Liliana becomes guilty herself. If only she'd get better already. Days go by, and eventually Liliana is discharged earlier than expected. She goes alone to the playground, overthinking everything. She wonders who the male leads will fall for now that Rebecca is gone. She quietly wishes for Leopold to end up with Regina, hoping to ask him to date her sister. But before she could ponder further, Marius and Leopold reappeared at the playground. She's a male lead magnet! Back at home, Amelia is about to search for Liliana when Alice stops her. She offers to do it herself, letting Amelia have a day off from taking care of Liliana. All the while, Regina lounges tiredly on the couch. Seeing her there, Alice suggests she sleep in her room, but Regina refuses. To be honest, Regina isn't tired or sleepy. She just has something on her mind. She then opens up, confessing to Alice that she's fallen for someone. He's not her usual type, but the way he blushes and stumbles over his words whenever she talks to him touched her heart. Just thinking about Leopold makes her heart race. Feeling better, Regina gets up, urging Alice to go find Liliana, and maybe pick up some food on the way back. But before Alice can even step outside, they find Liliana already at the door. And behind her, Leopold and Marius themselves. Seeing Leopold, Regina retreats back inside, realizing she doesn't look presentable. Liliana explains she brought them home because they were lost and hungry, and because they're her friends. Shortly after, Marius greets Alice with a charming smile and flirtatious tone, clearly trying to win her over. But Alice finds this approach irritating. They clearly have opposite personalities. Together, Alice, Regina, Leopold, Marius, and Liliana head to a nearby restaurant to eat. Liliana proudly plays matchmaker between Regina and Leopold, praying they end up together. If they do, the chance of war decreases, and the chance of Alice surviving goes up. Leopold, known for being a loyal romantic, would never make Regina cry. If they became a couple, Liliana thinks they'd make a warm, peaceful family. But Alice scolds Liliana for teasing Regina, while Marius watches the scene with amusement. Marius, clearly enjoying the matchmaking chaos, leans towards Liliana with a grin. He then suggests she play Cupid again. It's time for him and her eldest sister, Alice. Ooh, he's on the move. Meanwhile, Amelia meets Francois at the Trovancha National Library for magic and abilities. She casually points him towards Section C, where most of the advanced healing and purification books are located. As they browse, they begin discussing their shared passions: medicine, healing, and the science behind purification magic. Francois finds the conversation oddly enjoyable, thinking this must be what it feels like to truly connect over shared interests. He remembers how tense Amelia was when they first met, always on edge for Liliana's sake. Now she's calm and focused, clearly in her element among books and knowledge. Holding the 8 books Amelia recommended, Francois offers to treat her to a meal. Amelia declines, but he insists with a charming smile, calling it a professional networking lunch. Deep down, he's not really hungry. He just wants more time with her. He knows Amelia is a local expert and sharp enough to hold a proper conversation, unlike most people he meets. More importantly, she's Andrea's sister, the very person he once made a binding and irreversible deal with. He surely loves using people to his advantage. Francois flashes his signature smile, expecting it to work like usual. But Amelia bluntly tells him it's annoying and fake. She makes it clear she's not interested in his games, daring him to either ask directly what he wants to know or stop wasting both their time. Over the meal, Francois asks how she figured out his true intention. Amelia confidently says it was obvious, her sharp wit catching him off guard. He sighs, admitting his usual charm clearly has no effect on her. Oh boy, she's not going to fall for it. Francois finds her odd, which makes her unpredictable, a problem for someone like him. Everyone else falls for his act, but Amelia only feels irritated by it. He decides to drop the nice guy act when dealing with her from now on. In frustration, he jokingly calls her a sunfish, not knowing how much he'll regret those words years later. But that's a story for another time. Marius gleefully asks Liliana if she wants to play Cupid for Alice, but Alice is not amused in the slightest. She's actually pissed. This leaves Liliana not only confused, but also concerned by the sudden tension between the two. He then asks Liliana what she wants to eat. Though she's excited, she's hesitant because she knows he's struggling financially at the moment. But before she can even decline, Marius orders one of everything on the menu. Amazed by his doting nature, she can't help but admit that he's indeed the best uncle. As Liliana enjoys her meal, she notices and giggles at Leopold and Regina, who are gradually getting closer to each other. Leopold then notices her and nervously offers to cut the meat she's eating. As he cuts the meat, he can't help but compare Liliana's appetite to Edgar's. Leopold realizes she needs to eat a lot because she's still a small growing child. She's also forced to eat some vegetables, which she reluctantly accepts. Luckily, Marius is kind enough to grab a piece of carrot from her plate, helping her avoid eating her vegetables. Just as she's about to be enthralled by his kind gesture, he returns to his quirky behavior, turning her excitement into disappointment. Promptly, Liliana tells Alice that she needs to go to the restroom, but not before Marius asks to be praised before she leaves. As she walks away, Regina offers to accompany her, but Liliana protests, claiming she's not a baby anymore and doesn't need company. Not that it matters, since Regina still goes with her. Shortly after they leave, Alice confronts Marius, telling him he shouldn't have approached Liliana. He responds that he's genuinely delighted to see her, which Alice finds hard to believe. Without delay, she asks if he knows what he wants already. He then condescendingly expresses his concerns about Liliana's health, stunning Alice because so few people know about this. Before she can even reply, he informs her that, as things stand, Liliana will only live until she's 15. Even after her short bathroom break, Liliana can still feel the strange tension between Alice and Marius, which only prolongs her confusion. Concerned about her older sister, she glares at the other party, but when he notices her, he quickly tries to whitewash the situation by acting overly friendly and spoiling her. However, seeing that her sister is intently glaring at them, Liliana decides not to carelessly accept his offer. Instead, she expresses her wish to see the circus, since her sisters never really allowed her to go to crowded places out of fear she might contract an illness. Upon hearing her request, Alice's glare intensifies, but Marius pats Liliana on the head reassuringly and promises that he'll take her there. Excited, Liliana quickly finishes the rest of her meal so they can head out as soon as possible. Afterward, she urges Alice to hurry to the circus, explaining that she made the effort to eat her vegetables so they could leave earlier. Tired of her sister's unhurried pace, Liliana leaves her behind and rushes to the venue. Alice and Regina desperately chase after her when suddenly Liliana's consciousness begins to fade. She quickly realizes she should have listened to them. She's just so tired of living a wary life. Briefly confused, she wakes up without pain, only to see that Alice is unconscious and bruised, having tried to protect her from an oncoming carriage. As Liliana begins to cry regretfully, Alice wakes up and immediately checks on her, ignoring her own injuries. Alice scolds her, expressing how worried she was. Liliana starts to cry and apologizes to her sister. Relieved that Liliana is alright, Alice embraces her tightly. At sunset, Marius checks on a snoozing Liliana after she cried herself to sleep. He then tells Alice that since she got hurt, she should rest as well, though not without poking fun at her scarred and messy appearance. Ignoring his teasing, Alice tells him she's decided to proceed with a political marriage. Alice ponders the fact that never in her life has she wished to be in a romantic relationship, let alone married. She has always prioritized her siblings, friends, and ambitions over those sorts of things. If she could only continue choosing that path, her life would certainly go smoothly. But now she has to account for Liliana's health. Liliana, someone she considers a sister or even a daughter, with love, she has to consider the trajectory of her life to prevent Liliana from suffering, or worse, dying. Seeing her determination, Marius can't help but feel defeated. As long as he promises that nothing will happen to Liliana, Alice will proceed with the political binding. This is her condition. Still, he can't believe this is the value of that child's life. Leopold regrets not being quick enough to protect Liliana himself, but he recognizes Alice's capability given her title as guardian. Shortly, he sights Regina looking saddened, so he approaches her to check on her. She expresses that she feels pathetic, but he is so quick to dismiss this, flattering her before she has even finished saying what she wants to say. She then continues, saying that this is already the second time she has failed to protect Liliana. She knows that children need constant supervision, and knowing she was present earlier, she should have done better at supervising her, yet she failed miserably. She rues not being born strong enough to prevent Alice and Liliana from being hurt. After carefully hearing her sentiments this time, Leopold admits that he's not very good at this type of situation. Aside from protecting and fighting, he tries his best to comfort her. Realizing his awkward attempts as he holds Regina's hand, he immediately retracts it and the two become flustered. Shortly after, Regina bursts into laughter, amused by Leopold's attempt, and asks him for some time to hang out before he returns to the Empire. Hearing this, he tells her that an invitation won't be necessary as he turns his head around and asks her to go on a date, leaving the two of them flushed. The following day, Amelia and Regina loudly express their disbelief at the absurd news about Alice's marriage to Marius, claiming that the media has gone out of hand for them to be petrified, as Alice informs them that everything in the news is true. Upon hearing this news, Liliana loudly cries, expressing her dissatisfaction. But Alice just tells her that that's just how things are right now, telling them that the wedding will take place sometime after she spends time in the Empire. Having had enough of these absurd statements, Amelia presses her even more. Liliana cries in her room after being ordered by Alice. She sulks in her room, asking her stuffy, Cookie, why her sister has suddenly been acting this way. She then eavesdrops, hearing that Alice has decided to raise her herself. Marius still can't help but recall Alice's words from when she agreed to the marriage, but as long as he benefits greatly from it, he couldn't care less. As he steps down from the carriage, the first thing he sees is a bawling Liliana calling out to him. A while back, Liliana realized that if Alice, who claims she will raise her, were to marry Marius, she would have to live with them in the Empire. This would mean parting from her other sisters, and she doesn't want that. She decides to persuade Marius, so she sneaks out of the mansion and goes out of her way to find him. But getting there is a struggle since she's still a child, so she resorts to some deception just to reach Marius. Talk about ruthless! While she lies and uses her brother as an excuse, the thought of him makes her miss him. Her brother, who raised her after their parents passed away, eventually left the capital himself. She then begins to cry, convincing the coachman to take her to her desired destination. Pleased with everything she has done, she dozes off. Afterward, they arrive, and as she pays the coachman, he refuses to let her go because the coins she paid weren't real money but tokens instead. Which brings us to the present, where Liliana is clinging to Marius, begging to be lent money so she can pay the coachman. Confused, he asks her why she came in the first place, to which she tells him she just wants to see him. Hearing this, Marius can't help but grin in delight. Liliana is annoyed at the silly faces Marius makes, fully believing that she came to see him. Not wanting to witness any more of this, she tells him to pay the coachman quickly. Proud of how things have turned out, he tosses a gold coin to the coachman, completely changing the man's demeanor as he scurries away. Upon learning that Marius gave a gold coin, Liliana is left dumbfounded and feels betrayed because she was led to believe he was struggling with money. But he smiles complacently and then offers to treat her to food. Once they settle down, he asks her why she came to see him. Was it because she missed him? She immediately denies it, exclaiming that he's not even her actual brother. Marius is confused because earlier she called him her dear brother. Liliana explains that she just did it for fun, causing him to burst out laughing at the absurdity of this kid. She then expresses her opposition to him marrying Alice, claiming that she doesn't care if he feels sad or anything. She just doesn't want that to happen. Saddened, he asks why she's so opposed, then explains that Alice is just too good for him, claiming that she's the best in the world. Marius haughtily responds, saying that he's also the best in the world. Liliana is left petrified by Marius's shamelessness. Though she agrees that he has some great qualities, she thinks Leopold is way better than him. He then asks why she's short on money when she's with her sisters, to which she replies that she came alone, momentarily stunning Marius and Max. They worriedly ask if she came with her sister's permission, but she just sits there, gradually becoming nervous because she's unsure whether she left a letter for them. Noticing her growing anxiety, Marius promptly orders Max to call the Vercillo family, thinking they're probably gravely worried about her. Meanwhile, at the Vercillo household, Alice, Regina, and Amelia are frantically searching for Liliana in desperation, when suddenly there's a knock at the door, revealing a dashing yet awkward Leopold carrying flowers. Regina remembers she's supposed to have a date with him right now. She sobs, explaining that she can't go today because Liliana is missing. But before she can finish, a guard interrupts, asking if Alice is around. Marius sent him to relay the news about Liliana's whereabouts, greatly confusing the sisters. On their way to retrieve Liliana, Alice conditions her mind to compose herself when she eventually confronts her youngest sister. But when she finally meets her, she immediately breaks down, asking why Liliana would leave without their permission. Seeing that she once again made her sisters worry, especially since it wasn't long after they had an accident, Liliana cries profusely, apologizing to Alice. Afraid of being abandoned like their brother did, she begs Alice not to do the same. Upon hearing this, Alice realizes that perhaps she didn't do enough to provide security for Liliana despite her best efforts. She then tells everyone they should leave and talk about this later. 10 minutes later, Liliana is sitting on the reflection chair, a form of punishment in the Vercillo household. She's still sobbing, so in an attempt to soothe her, Marius decides to sit with her. He then confronts her, asking if the reason she came was to discourage him from marrying her sister, wondering if she's afraid he's going to take Alice away from her. Embarrassed, Liliana scurries away, making Marius think he's right after all. Though she's not opposed to her sisters having romantic relationships, the fact that Marius is the emperor makes it hard for her to visit Alice once they live together. Since Liliana didn't have any parental figure, the closest thing that resembles and expresses that kind of affection to her is her eldest sister Alice, which is why she can't afford to lose her too. Shortly after, she overhears Regina talking to Leopold, stating that she'll likely live in the Empire alongside Alice. Amelia and Regina once again confront Alice about her intentions to become Empress of the Empire, not buying her explanation that it would be the best course for her ambitions. But of course, they can't tell her that. They then express their other concern, especially about the discrimination in the Empire, but Alice emphatically states that she'll manage somehow. Regina is then reminded of Alice's deadpan look when she broke down earlier. She can't have that, which is why she decides she has to accompany her to the Empire no matter what. She knows their secrecy, but what matters most to her is her sister's safety. Perplexed by this news, Leopold tells her that they should move this conversation somewhere else. But little do they know, Liliana also heard their conversation. After they leave, she rushes into her bedroom, disheartened, thinking that her family is slowly breaking apart. Later, Leopold ponders Regina's decision to find work in the Empire since she has decided to stay there. Though he's concerned, he also finds it difficult to conceal his happiness, knowing that he'll be staying with her. Marius and Max can't help but notice his smug face, so the former decides to approach him, informing him that if he decides to marry Regina, they'll be bound by blood once again, which is good because if war ever breaks out between the Empire and Trovancha, then they'll have to go up against each other. After sharing his sentiments, Marius then leaves, stating that he needs to deliver something. A few days later, Liliana is feeling lonely as she is still banned from the playground as her punishment. Though she was initially sad, Amelia scolded her, making things worse for her. Right now, Liliana is writing a letter to Andrea, asking how nice it would be for the four of them to spend time together again. She hopes that if he receives a letter informing him about how her sisters are about to marry sketchy men, then he'll have no choice but to come back. She then tries to ask her sisters to accompany her to the post office, but fails miserably. After unintentionally provoking Amelia, she runs toward the door, only to accidentally open it on Marius. Marius plays off the pain, messing around and asking Liliana to soothe it. Acknowledging that it's her fault, she accedes to his request, quickly changing his pain to a warm delight. Amelia, who's just behind Liliana, asks what his purpose for visiting is, to which Marius responds that he's looking for Alice. She quickly lies, saying that Alice is away. He notices her animosity towards him. Luckily for him, Liliana tells him the truth, saying that Alice is just sleeping. Upon hearing the commotion outside, Alice wakes up and heads to the door, asking what Marius's intention is. He then tells her that he wishes to give the engagement ring himself, despite not having the ceremony. Shortly after, Amelia tells them that she and Liliana still have somewhere to go, so they promptly leave the two alone. As they head out, Liliana wishes Alice well and advises her not to spend too much time with Marius. After Liliana and Amelia leave, Alice and Marius proceed to discuss their marriage arrangement and the conditions. Though Alice doesn't have any more concerns upon inspecting the documents, one thing that worries her is what Marius wants. But little does she know, he also doesn't know what he wants either. Meanwhile, Liliana is currently infuriated that she's once again been tricked by Amelia, because right now she's eating with Francois present. But upon being bribed by her sister, she gives in. Liliana really doesn't like Francois since he's a threat in the original story, but given how much the story has deviated, it doesn't seem like he's still a threat at the moment. After exchanging formalities, Francois asks her if she's scared of him. Liliana nervously denies his suspicion that she's scared of him, even correcting him that he's not her brother, rather, he's just a mister. Francois then concocts an awful-looking potion. Though she feels reluctant upon looking at it, he tells her that he'll give her a cute stuffed doll if she drinks the pudding. Delighted, she decides to drink the potion if it means she can have the adorable doll. Upon returning, Regina reintroduces Leopold, now as her new boyfriend. But the most unexpected news isn't done. She announces that she'll be moving with Leopold to the Empire. Infuriated, Amelia shouts at Regina, berating her sister for the sudden decision. The tension quickly escalates when Amelia grabs Regina's hand, demanding to talk, but Regina refuses. Having had enough of her sister, Amelia storms off, leaving the rest in the room. Regina then tries to de-escalate the situation by asking Liliana for her approval, but she has no problem with it whatsoever. Liliana then asks if they're really leaving Trovancha. As she asks this, she catches a glimpse of Alice's finger, already adorned with an engagement ring. Overwhelmed, she decides to rest in her bedroom. Of course, Liliana wants to stay in Trovancha. Everything, her friends, the fruits, the scenery, and the memories she's built up are here. She then cries herself to sleep as she ponders what is inevitable. Meanwhile, Amelia wakes up greatly confused that sunlight is passing through her windows despite having blackout curtains. She quickly sits up, only to find Francois casually sitting and having tea in her bedroom. Confused, Amelia worriedly asks what he's doing in her bedroom. Francois then tries to make her remember. She then recalls that after she stormed off, she went out drinking excessively. As a result, she got drunk, and after that, everything was a blackout. She tells him to pretend that nothing happened, but he's not having that. He wants her to take responsibility for the trouble she caused, even vomiting on his expensive clothes. She promises to pay him back as he prepares to leave. But before he leaves, he tells her that Marius reached out to him so he can dedicate 10 years to oversee Liliana's health, confirming Amelia's suspicion that their marriage is indeed just political. She then expresses how hard it would be for her sister to rise as empress, to which Francois agrees, especially given her status. No one among the royalty and nobles will let this slide. Though she understands the nobles' reasons, she still can't help but worry. Shortly after, Francois offers a deal to help them as long as Amelia promises to help him in 10 years, which he refuses to elaborate on. Overnight, Liliana receives a letter from Andrea acknowledging their sister's wedding and wishing her luck, as well as apologizing because he won't be seeing them anytime soon. Right now, she wakes up with puffy eyes, which everyone can't help but notice. Today is going to be Alice and Marius' wedding, and yet Andrea won't be there to stop it. That's why she cried her heart out last night. Liliana then expresses her disappointment after being teased by Marius. In truth, she just wants to stay in Trovancha, not wanting to leave her friends. Without much thought, she blurts out that she doesn't want Alice to get married. The room falls silent, making her afraid, but Marius tries to convince her how great it would be for her to live in the Empire. She would get to spend time with her favorite, Leopold, and experience so much more. And with that, they both make a deal. Liliana will stay for 200 nights. A day before moving out to the Empire, Liliana sadly informs Antonio about her leaving Trovancha. He cries, knowing that he'll probably never see her again. But even though that's possible, she reassures him that they'll still write letters to each other now that they're going to be far apart. After promising each other, the two enjoy their last time together as tears of bittersweet joy run down their delightfully blushed faces. After their time spent together, though it hasn't been long, Liliana sadly recalls the promise she just made with Antonio. She also enjoys the last sight of her beloved home as the carriage passes by it. She ponders when she could possibly come back to this wonderful place as she bids it her final farewell. On the ship, Alice tells Liliana to wait until lunch since she mentioned she's hungry. So while waiting, Liliana decides to roam around the ship as long as she doesn't go far or to weird places, as per Alice's instructions. Liliana heads over to the guardrail of the ship to oversee Trovancha, and as she notices they're moving further and further away, she once again feels depressed, reminded that she never got to say goodbye to Amelia. She then cries, missing her so much, when suddenly a familiar voice asks if she already misses her home. It's Amelia! Dumbfounded, Liliana asks when Amelia got on the boat, but before Amelia can even respond, Liliana embraces her tightly and bawls her eyes out. Upon hearing the commotion, Alice and Regina come to see what's going on, confused by Amelia's presence as well. Amelia then explains that she's going to be working in the Empire as an assistant to the Master of the Magic Tower. And with that, she gets on the boat with a special permit. But upon hearing this news, Alice is furious. She then goes on to provoke Alice, explaining that being together is the most important thing, but given her reaction, perhaps Alice doesn't want to be. Though Liliana is overjoyed that she's going to be living with all of her sisters, the problem right now is that even before arriving at the Empire, there's already great tension between them. She then wishes for Antonio to take her back to her home. A while back, Amelia's colleague tells her how much of a loss it would be for her to leave Trovancha. But the thing is, she can't just be left behind and not look after her sisters. She is fully aware of their intentions, and knowing that, she must give it her all to support them. With that said, if she does go to the Empire, she doesn't plan on going empty-handed. She plans to gain profit there. She then wonders what Francois could possibly gain from his scheme and why it is kept such a secret. But Amelia takes this as a challenge, claiming that she's equally as dark as him. After a week of venturing toward the Empire, they finally arrive, and Liliana can't seem to contain her amazement because it's so drastically different compared to Trovancha. From the buildings and decorations to the unfamiliar dresses of the people from the Empire, everything is just mesmerizing. Though Liliana is very excited, the same cannot be said for her sisters. On the day Amelia arrived, Liliana overheard a heated argument between Amelia and Regina, both questioning each other's intentions and the possible difficulty of taking care of Liliana. As a result, Regina ended up crying, and so did Liliana. That night, as she cried, she couldn't help but ponder everything that's been happening lately. At present, Marius is touring Liliana through the Empire, and of course, she is as excited as ever. But Marius informs her that if they're outside, she should address him as Your Highness or older brother. As they exit the carriage, they are immediately met with judging gazes from the citizens of the Empire. Even someone as young as Liliana can sense the hostility coming from them, making her unsure whether this would really be a conducive place for her to live. Just as her thoughts recede, Marius welcomes them to the Empire. Liliana meets Mary and Jo, her personal maids, for the first time. She's new to this, so she feels a bit overwhelmed and tells them they can attend to Alice instead, but they inform her that other maids are already taking care of Alice. Noticing her visible nervousness, the maids reassure her, telling her she can just sit back and relax while they take care of her from now on. But that's easier said than done. She's not used to this kind of treatment because it's completely different from Trovancha. She then checks on her sisters and sees that they're being helped by the maids and smiling. But the same doesn't apply to Amelia, who won't need the maids' help much since she's going to move out. Saddened that her sisters are busy, she turns to Cookie, the only one who can play with her. But this is short-lived as soon as she goes to explore the Imperial Palace. Afterward, Liliana plays and looks at the flowers in the garden. Shortly after, Leopold appears and she excitedly embraces him tightly. He tells her that he and his brother aren't doing anything, so they could spend some time playing with her. The good thing is, his brother is the same age as her. She gets excited, knowing she's finally getting a friend her own age. When she sees him, she is fascinated by the boy's beauty. She has never seen a child this beautiful before. She greets him with excitement, but little does she know that the boy is rude. He immediately slaps her hand away when she reaches out to shake hands. Liliana is petrified in disbelief, as she's never met anyone who doesn't want to be friends with her. Of course, she's not the only one surprised. Leopold is also frantically apologizing for his brother's behavior. But Edgar is just like that. He doesn't want to pretend to be friendly with her. He seems to despise her so much that he doesn't even want to apologize. At this moment, Liliana silently apologizes to her sisters because now she too despises someone in the Empire. Infuriated, Liliana insults Edgar, calling him a dumb asparagus and a seaweed. And to no surprise, the one who started it all is actually a snowflake and is not angry or ready to fight her. Leopold holds him back as she happily flees from the furious Edgar. Liliana is pleased that she made him upset. Rightfully so. She initially wanted to be his friend, but he's the one who started it. He shouldn't have dared to pick a fight with her in the first place. She then wishes never to see him again. But soon after that incident, Edgar is introduced to the sisters, Liliana included, leaving the two to stare at each other dumbfounded. At dinner, Leopold and Regina are flirting. Obviously, the two are in love. Marius also tries to help Alice, but she shuts him down immediately. Still, tension between Edgar and Liliana is very apparent, making the latter very much confused. Edgar then provokes her by poking at her as she tries to pick her food. He sneakily throws it at her, staining her favorite dress. Upset, she throws it back but quickly realizes she should be the bigger person here. Just as she tries to compose herself, he sneaks down the table and steps on her dress. Unable to hold it much longer, she screams that she hates him so much. Later that day, her sisters tried to console her, saying that Edgar probably just wants to be friends with her. Plus, the vegetables he tries to insult her with are actually cute and tasty, but Liliana thinks otherwise. She then wonders why Leopold's younger brother is so rude when Leo is so kind. But Regina clarifies that Edgar is actually his cousin and states that he often lives back and forth between the palace and Leopold's house. It is then revealed that Edgar also lost his parents at a young age, striking a new realization in Liliana. Ever since the fight they had in the restaurant, Liliana quite often sees Edgar, and the more she thinks about it, he's almost always with Leopold. Despite Marius being his brother as well, he always sticks with the former. Though she can't really relate because Liliana is always close to all of her sisters. She shares with them that she's really happy living with her sisters, so it must be the same for Edgar too. Little does she know that these words are enough to warm the hearts of her two elder sisters. Later, Liliana is about to take a nap and prepares her bed, only to see a large pumpkin hiding beneath the sheets. Though shocked, she immediately knows the culprit: Edgar. She bursts through the door and attacks Edgar, chasing him away as she grows fuming over his ridiculousness. As she continues to chase him, regretting that she ever tried to sympathize with him, she trips and ends up bawling instead. Suddenly, Leopold appears, and after scolding Edgar, he promptly tends to Liliana to console her. As she's being lifted by Leopold in an attempt to calm her down, she sees Edgar looking saddened and disheartened upon seeing his brother console her instead of him. She then wonders why he looks like he's empty or something. Later that day, Liliana is determined to figure out what made Edgar so sad, so she decides to pay him a visit with a gift. The problem is, she doesn't know where he is or his room. Just as she's waiting for someone to pass by so she can ask them where Edgar's room is, she hears the servants gossiping badly about her and her sisters. But before she can even step in to confront them, she hears something absurd and scary. Liliana hears about Marius killing all of his siblings and celebrating his cousin's birthday, who apparently ate his own mother. She then recalls the moment when her mother embraced her, telling her that she was not born by eating her mother, but was instead protected by her mom. Realizing that the servants are talking about Edgar, she charges at them and angrily hits them, telling them to stop insulting Edgar. Irritated, the male servant pushes her down and plans to hit her. The female servant then discourages this, but the male servant insists that discipline is necessary for a rude barbarian such as this girl. As he's about to hit her, Edgar arrives to save the day, telling off the servants for how audacious they are to attempt to hit an esteemed guest of the palace. The servants quickly bow and profusely apologize. Shortly after, Alice arrives to tend to Liliana. She then confronts the servants, but they're not backing down, especially since it's her they're talking to. They obviously look down on them. Just earlier they were gossiping about her. Alice expresses her gratitude to Edgar, asking him to take Liliana away for a bit as she deals with the servants. Meanwhile, Edgar feels a strange feeling coming from her. Without ado, he grabs Liliana's hand and takes her away. As they leave, Edgar asks Liliana if her sister Alice is strong, to which she proudly boasts about her sister. Not wanting to be outmatched, he tells her that Alice can't be stronger than his brother Leopold, leading to a heated argument between the two once more. He then tells her that she shouldn't be so rash next time, but she explains that they were insulting him, so she couldn't just sit idly by. Touched by her words, he tries to contain her flustered emotions. The two of them continue to exchange jeers at each other, though this time, Liliana can feel that they've grown closer. That night, Marius apologizes to Alice about the commotion that transpired earlier, but she tells him that he should apologize to Liliana instead of her. After all, she's the one who was affected the most. She also takes this time to apologize to Marius for punishing his servants despite them not being officially married yet, but he reassures her that being his fiancé is enough of a right. What transpired earlier was a clear display of the dispute between the Empire and Trovancha. As Trovancha calls the Empire ignorant warmongers, in turn, the Empire refers to Trovancha as a bunch of barbarians. Marius ponders this and realizes that there's still a long journey ahead before they can attain peace between the two countries. He regrets his narrow-sightedness in the pursuit of power, and because of that, he failed to oversee what was happening inside the palace. Alice then mentions that an appropriate order should be established. As she begins to bring up the matter regarding Edgar, Marius quickly changes the subject. In the following days, Edgar now offers to be Liliana's friend. Oh, how the tables have turned. But she doesn't want to, unless he becomes her underling, to which he obviously gets upset. Realizing that Edgar is a bit desperate to be her friend, she starts to tease and toy with him. Ever since that incident, he suddenly changes his ways. She even catches him peeking at her sometimes. Confused by his actions, she asks if he has any friends at all, and his reaction seems to tell her a lot. She feels bad for him, so she decides to play with him, but in exchange, he has to take her to the gardens. Excited, Liliana then goes on to play around the garden with Edgar. She thinks she should teach him first how to play, but just as they're getting into it, the gardener blocks their path. Though Edgar is easily fooled by the gardener's excuses, Liliana seems to think it's fishy. Now they're just playing kitchen instead, but all this time, Edgar feels like a fool for playing along with her. Shortly after, Edgar abashedly asks Liliana why she stood up for him when the servants insulted him. Liliana is confused as to why it took him so long to ask something so trivial, which only serves to embarrass Edgar further. She then explains that she protected him because he is precious. She says this because her own family considers her precious, and therefore he should be viewed in the same way. He reveals that he doesn't have parents to consider him precious, but despite this, she tells him that even though her parents are also gone, Liliana knows she is precious because of what her sisters tell her. However, Edgar doesn't feel the same. He doesn't believe he's precious. Just as he begins to tear up, Liliana quickly embraces him. She does this because whenever she feels depressed, her sister would always hug her in that way. But before Liliana knows it, Edgar's face has already turned completely red and he promptly flees. Later, in his bed, Edgar refuses to believe that he is indeed precious because no one has ever made him feel that way. And besides, she hardly even knows him. Shortly after, Leopold approaches him to console him. Edgar then takes this opportunity to ask Leopold if his mother ever regretted giving birth to him, causing Leopold to momentarily pause. Then, as Leopold embraces a sobbing Edgar, he tells him that his mother loved him very much. The story was that his mother was very sick and only had a few months to live. But when she found out she was carrying Edgar, that gave her a reason to live much longer, just so she could give birth to him. Edgar was born from his mother's pure love. And hearing this, he finally realizes that Liliana wasn't lying after all, as he cries in the arms of Leopold. Edgar wakes up with puffy eyes, which Liliana impassively points out, making him annoyed. But before this could escalate, Alice tells him to sit down and eat with them. He then decides to sit beside her, but unfortunately, Cookie is occupying the other seat. He tells her to move the doll so he can sit, but this only confuses her. Why would he go to that much trouble? She then tells Edgar to scram, which pisses him off, so before sitting elsewhere, he punches Cookie, greatly annoying Liliana. Later at dinner, Liliana wonders when she could see Amelia again, which Marius notices. He takes this opportunity to apologize to her for not securing the palace and explains that because of that, she heard something she shouldn't have. He also apologizes to Edgar. Liliana responds by saying she should be merciful and forgives them because that's what heroes do, to which Edgar reacts. The two then jeer at each other once again, but she eventually decides to ignore him. But Edgar doesn't stop picking fights with her, so she finally retaliates. As a result, later that evening, the two are a mess, but it has gone quiet now because they are both cuddly and sleeping beside each other, exhausted from all the fights. Alice and Marius can't help but giggle at the silliness of the two before moving on to a more serious note, discussing the events about to unfold. Alice will be introduced to the other nobles on Edgar's birthday, since that takes place before the wedding. He then bluntly tells her that he can't always protect her, and as the soon-to-be empress, there are things she should learn to endure. But rest assured, he will do his best to protect Liliana. That's for sure. That night, Regina and Leopold take a stroll in the garden, talking about Edgar's most anticipated birthday. She tells him that she prepared a little gift for him, but has a concern. She then asks him to lower his head so she can whisper something, but instead of listening, he's having a hard time because he's too embarrassed. Shortly after, Amelia appears from the bushes, scaring Regina. She explains that she was out looking for materials for an experiment. Regina then expresses how worried she was since she hadn't seen her in a while. The two catch up and make plans for a meal together next week since Liliana has been looking for her as well. After their heated argument a while ago, the two never really got a chance to make up. Amelia tells Leopold that she needs to borrow Regina for a bit, saying they just need a little sister talk. After finding a spot to talk, Amelia bluntly tells Regina that she should stay away from Leopold because he's a duke. Not because things might get messy due to their difference in status, but rather because of Regina's ability. Amelia claims that if he ever finds out and his attitude changes, it would cause political issues, and Alice would certainly be affected as well. The thing is, Regina apparently has the ability to mind control or something similar. Everyone who found out avoided her out of fear. They doubt whether their feelings toward her were ever true, knowing what she's capable of. Regina begins to cry, stating that for once she just wants something normal. Amelia promptly embraces her. Of course, Regina knows her situation, but she genuinely feels that Leopold is someone who can't actually accept her for who she is. Suddenly, they hear Leopold's voice, worriedly searching for them because it's getting late. Amelia then tells him that she has somewhere to go, so he better take her to the palace. After leaving, Leopold notices something on Regina, who delightfully tells him that they should come here next time with the kids. Not knowing what happened between the two, Leopold decides to leave things be for now. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!